Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're cracking open a cosmic detective story. We're looking at exactly how humanity figured out how to turn a simple running electric current into a mind-bogglingly powerful magnet. We're talking about the invisible gateway between two worlds, electricity and magnetism.
Picture this. You're in a hospital looking at one of those massive multi-million-dollar MRI machines. Have you ever wondered what it actually is deep down? Like, if you could strip away all the sleek plastic covers, the glowing computer screens, and the high-tech sensors, what are you actually left with?
Well, believe it or not, you're left with a giant, tightly wound coil of copper wire. That is literally it. It's essentially a giant physics toy. And today, we're going to discover how this deceptively simple coil generates a force powerful enough to safely peer inside your brain, spotting microscopic details without ever making a single cut.
To really get this, we got to jump back to 1820. Think about water flowing through a pipe. It moves smoothly from point A to point B, right? It doesn't really affect the room around it. For a long time, scientists thought electricity moving through a wire did the exact same thing. But then, Hans Christian Ørsted noticed something wild. Moving electric charges? They act more like a running celebrity. A celebrity standing totally still doesn't cause much of a fuss. But the second they start running through a crowd, they create this massive zone of excitement all around them. Ørsted realized that moving electric charges create this exact same kind of invisible aura, and we call that aura a magnetic field.
So how do we actually measure this aura? Well, scientists Biot and Savart figured out a way to map its exact strength. And it turns out it really just boils down to three things. It depends entirely on how close you are to the wire, plus the speed and the sheer volume of those moving charges. Basically, if you want a stronger magnetic field, you either need way more charges moving a lot faster, or you just need to get much closer to the action.
Now here's where we use the ultimate physics hack to supercharge that weak little aura. It's called a solenoid. See, a perfectly straight wire only creates a tiny, weak magnetic field. It's kind of like a single whispering voice. But if you take that exact same wire and wrap it into a really tight coil, picture a metal slinky, the magnetic fields from every single loop start stacking up. They all team up and point in the exact same direction. Suddenly, that whisper becomes a shouting voice, multiplying the magnetic strength by hundreds of times.
And this right here perfectly illustrates why solenoids are such huge game changers. Think about a normal fridge magnet. That's a permanent magnet. It's always on, and you absolutely cannot turn it off. But a solenoid? That's an electromagnet, which gives you ultimate control. You just flip a switch to flow current, and boom, you've got a massive magnet. But the absolute best part? The second you turn that switch off, it completely reverts back to a totally harmless, inactive piece of regular copper wire.
You might not realize it, but you interact with this on and off electromagnet magic literally every single day. Think about your automatic washing machine. When that door locks, an electric signal powers a tiny coil that turns into a magnet, snapping a heavy metal deadbolt shut. Or scale that way up to a scrap metal yard. Those giant cranes use massive solenoids to easily pick up entire cars. They turn the juice on to lift the car and just cut the power to drop it. I mean, try doing that with a regular permanent magnet.
Okay, so here's the really crucial part. What actually happens out in the wild when a moving charge encounters an outside magnetic field? Well, magnets are politely firm. The field doesn't just pull the charge closer or push it straight away. Instead, it pushes the charge sideways at an exact 90-degree angle. Imagine you're running straight forward and someone is constantly pushing you from the side. You wouldn't stop running, right? But you'd be forced to run in a perfect continuous circle.
That constant sideways push, that's known as the Lorentz Force. And listen, this isn't just some boring textbook concept you need to memorize. It actually happens to be an invisible, planetary-scale shield that literally saves our lives every single day.
See, the sun is constantly blasting us with these deadly high-energy charged particles called the solar wind. If those hit Earth directly, they would absolutely fry our DNA, no question. But luckily, Earth has its own giant magnetic field. When those deadly charges come rushing at us, Earth's field steps in like a giant cosmic traffic cop. It applies that Lorentz force, spinning those dangerous particles in safe circles, funneling them away toward the North and South poles. There, they crash into the atmosphere and glow completely harmlessly as the absolutely gorgeous Northern Lights. Pretty incredible, right?
So we know a single charge gets pushed into a circle.
But what happens if we put a whole rectangular loop of wire right between two heavy magnets? Well, one side of the loop has current traveling up, so the magnetic field pushes it down. The other side has current traveling down, so it gets pushed up. This creates torque. It's a turning effect that works exactly like pushing opposite sides of a steering wheel. And this simple little game of magnetic tug-of-war, that is exactly how we invented the electric motor. It's the secret sauce spinning everything from your kitchen blender to electric cars.
Let's bring this all back to our main mystery and see how the whole puzzle fits together. We started by asking how an MRI machine can map your internal organs. Well, now that you're experts on moving charges, solenoids, and torque, we can finally unlock the secret. An MRI machine is quite literally the largest, most powerful solenoid you will ever encounter. And it works its absolute magic in 4 incredible steps. Let's break them down.
Step 1. Doctors take kilometers of tightly wound wire, pack it inside that massive plastic donut, and blast a huge electric current through it. But to keep those wires from literally melting, they have to submerge them in liquid helium, bringing the temperature down to near absolute zero. This totally removes all electrical resistance, creating what is essentially a superconducting super solenoid. We're talking about a magnetic field roughly 30,000 times stronger than Earth's.
Then comes step 2, where you slide into the machine. Now, your body is mostly water, which means it is packed with hydrogen atoms. The nuclei of those atoms act like microscopic spinning magnets, but they're usually just tumbling around, pointing in completely random directions. But that monstrous MRI field, it applies torque, just like we saw with the electric motor, to every single one of those tiny spinning magnets inside you. It methodically and perfectly aligns billions of your hydrogen atoms, so they're all pointing in the exact same direction.
Finally, we hit steps 3 and 4. The machine suddenly shoots a quick burst of radio waves straight into your body, which violently knocks all those atoms completely out of alignment. But the second that radio pulse turns off, the atoms instantly snap right back into alignment with the super solenoid. And as they snap back, they release a tiny little burst of energy. Here's the trick. Different tissues, like muscle, bone, or maybe a tumor, have different water contents, so they all snap back at slightly different speeds. Super-sensitive detectors catch those unique energy bursts and use them to generate a flawless 3D map of your insides.
Now, understanding this sheer incredible power is exactly why doctors so strictly enforce the golden metal rule. They ban absolutely every single metal object before you even go near an MRI room. Because you've got this monster solenoid running inside, the magnetic field is so incredibly intense that it will violently attract magnetic metals. It literally turns everyday objects like your keys or some loose coins into highly dangerous, high-speed flying projectiles. It's no joke. And you might be wondering, well, what about non-magnetic metals? Even things like gold jewelry are strictly banned. Because that heavy magnetic power is just so immense, it can induce incredibly powerful, rapid electric currents inside the gold itself. This causes the metal to heat up instantly, which can severely burn the patient. When the doctors say no metals, they aren't just being overly cautious rule followers. They are actively respecting the immense, frankly terrifying power of electromagnetism.
So to sum up this whole explainer, this entire topic is really just a beautifully interconnected story about movement. Moving electricity creates magnetism, which is exactly how solenoids lock your washing machine or run a giant MRI. In turn, magnetism pushes moving electricity, which is how Earth's field saves us from deadly solar radiation. And finally, that perpendicular push creates rotation, which is the driving force behind every single electric motor on the planet. We've literally taken two completely invisible forces of nature, married them together, and used them to completely automate and protect our entire civilization.
It's pretty wild to think that without basic electromagnetism, absolutely none of the modern marvels around us would even exist. It really leaves you wondering, if human minds can harness the exact same forces that shield entire planets just to safely peer inside our own brains, what invisible force of nature are we going to master next? If this explainer helped you finally see the incredible physics hiding in plain sight all around you, hit subscribe, smash that like button, and let me know down in the comments what mystery we should uncover next. Catch you in the next one.